What is up? Welcome back to the Frost Buddy podcast. I'm your host, Brock Mimoser, also the co-founder of Frost Buddy. And, if you're new here, I'm excited that you're here. Maybe someone told you, maybe you saw it on Frost Buddy, on one of my socials. I don't know, but hey, you're here now and we can get a little bit better, right? So, if you're new here, we talk about a lot of different things. I like a lot of different things. I like things in business. I like sports. I like fitness. I like personal development. And so, this is for people, maybe similar to me, or maybe that just like my story, want to hear it. I know several people, that have told me that. So yeah, it's pretty exciting. If you don't know about me, just 2 years out of school, come from a family of four, Christian household, love my family, big family, 4 boys. And then, started Frost Buddy with the universal can cooler, right? With Mitch, my brother Mitch. And then, it kind of just took off. And so we went from 0 to 8 figures in literally a year, which was crazy. And it's kind of just exploded since then. And we're building the plane as we fly it. And, I get to share my experiences, my struggles, my challenges, and just help, other entrepreneurs or other people. And basically anyone that wants to listen, anyone that gives a crap about what I have to say, which is kind of crazy that some people do care, because I'm just a normal guy, trying to weave my way through this crazy life that I now have. But that's a little rundown, right? Sometimes we do Q&A. Sometimes we do, some different things, whether it's, just inspiration, motivation for the day, or sometimes I'll give a story, maybe a flashback, kind of use a little analogy, maybe from track and field at Indiana to how it relates to business, stuff like that, right? So a lot of different things. But recently I've been getting a lot of questions, so I've just been on a roll of answering them. And today I got a good one, and it's actually from a good friend. He's talked about starting a business, talked about, doing some sort of hustle, something, right? Doesn't know what, and I get that a lot, right? And there's a lot of people, I've had for the longest time ideas. I think everyone's got something, right? Everyone has ideas, but it's about how do I start? How do I execute? And then how do I plan, right? Like what the hell's going to happen? There's so many unknowns in this world. And, with how the economy has went to shit with COVID happening, a year ago, like you don't know what the government's going to do. And there's just so many unknowns, right? And in life and business, it's all the same, even sports, right? Like I never knew when I was going to pull my hamstring. I never knew that I was going to break my foot my freshman year. Like you cannot plan for so many things in this life. And so you have to be resilient and you have to adapt and you have to learn. And it doesn't matter what you do in life. I think this is going to be applicable. So, the fee is just to share the show. Share with someone, anyone, please. If you think they find value, entertainment, or maybe, you just think I'm freaking cool, then by God, just do it. You could listen to this on your way to work or while you're working out, whatever you want to do. But just share it if you think it's cool because, I like doing it and, we're really growing. We're growing fast. And that's what I like to do. I like to grow fast. I like to build. So let's get into it. Okay. So basically they said, Brock, how on earth do I plan for the unexpected? Whether it's and I'm going to relate this to business. This is what they were asking. How do you prepare for the unexpected in business? And let me tell you, from my 2 years, my nice short 2 years of experience in Frost Buddy, there are a shit ton of unexpecteds. It's insane. Actually, just kind of get used to the fact that you just can't control anything, really. There's a very small amount of things that you can control, but hey, I can control those. And then what happens in the unexpected? How do we plan? And I think, it's something that I was a little naive with at first, right? So when you're starting, you're super excited, you have all this optimism, you have all this creativity, these ideas, and you're like, everything's going to go great. And I think that's the characteristic of most entrepreneurs. That's probably most people that want to go out on their own. If you're like me, everything's going to go great. You're going to make it work. And you know what? It's just great, right? And there's just nothing else to it. Nothing could go wrong. What could happen? And so then as you get into it, something might go wrong. Something might hit you. It might be the economy. It might be your supplier that all of a sudden wants to renegotiate your terms. It might be, a retailer dropping you or giving you some sort of bomb of news. It might be an employee quitting. There could be a plethora of different things that happen. And so how do I plan for that? How do I, basically expect the unexpected? And I think that's, something that we're still learning, but I can explain to you kind of what we are starting to do and what we have learned throughout these past few years. And, I'm just going to, I think, go with some stories, go with some examples, because that's the best way I can kind of make it stick and explain to you, how do we do that? So, there's been several things that have just been completely unexpected with Frostbuddy, right? And so the first one I would say was like, we had someone leave, and then we had kind of some blackmail issues. We had, some different things like that you just like, how could you expect that? How could you expect that from anything? Right. And so like, that's one of those, we couldn't plan for that in the moment, right? We couldn't expect that we were going to have that. But I think the key here is that once that happened, once we realized that we were able to look back and see that we had some holes, right? In what might be security, or we had some holes in just being, kind of lax and lenient. And, so that's the biggest thing, in my opinion, when shit hits you, when you get punched in the face, is it like, you're probably not going to be able to expect it, but what you can do and what you can prepare for is, as soon as something hits you, you can immediately take action, look at the situation, look at, hey, how did this happen? What was the plan? What was the build up to this happening? Could have we prevented it? And what can we do in the future so that this never happens again? And so that's what we did. We took the steps, we looked at it, we assessed the situation, talked to experts, talked to the right people, and say, hey, how can we prepare for this? And, we're lucky, and you could be fortunate that you pray that nothing too terrible happens, nothing too catastrophic. So that was one example, right? And, that's just something, again, you just got to look at it. You got to take it on the chin, and you got to assess it very quickly. And I think that's what's beautiful. That's what I love about business, about the e-com world especially, but just business in general. It is at such a rapid speed. It works at, in the micro, it works at such a fast pace that it's like, you got to go, 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 go. And then, as you're consistently doing that over the long term, you start to make strides, you start to see those gains. And so, another thing that you can do to prepare for unexpected stuff, to prepare for different things, you can look at everything with a sense of skepticism, with a sense of caution, right? And so, I look at it as kind of a mindful, kind of just a scenario analysis in your head. Okay. So what we do when we meet as a team each week is, now that we've had enough crap happen, we'll basically, if any decision is going to be made, if it's, let's say we have a huge retailer that we're about to bring on board. And when we're in a meeting talking about them, what do we, we're going to look at, hey, what's the absolute worst case scenario here? What's the absolute best case scenario here? And then odds are it probably falls somewhere in the middle. But what we're going to really, really talk about is, hey, this worst case scenario, if this happens, and like, I'm talking worst, what are we going to do to where we survive? What can we do to basically prepare for that worst possible case scenario, to where if that happens, it's a minor setback, it's not a collapse. And I think that is the biggest thing that you can do, and that's the biggest thing that we do now. And, at first I hated it. I'll admit I hated it, because I don't like looking at the worst case scenario. I just can't. That's not how I'm wired, but it prevents you from those future mistakes. And it, thankfully for the people on our team, we have some people that look at that, and it's so great for me that I'm so thankful that we do look at that. And it really helps. It's helped me to open up to go in every decision, whether it's bringing on a new employee, or whether it's leaving a certain agency, or whether it's making a website change, right? Or a new product. We're always going, what's the best case scenario here? What's the absolute worst case scenario? And how are we going to handle both of those situations? And are there certain things that are there certain processes or systems or steps that we can put in place that if that worst case scenario happens, we're covered, we're good. And that is what I wish I had learned that at the very beginning. And that's what, again, I don't think anything can really teach you that except for experience. I don't think college can teach you that. I don't even think that I could know that when I'm starting it, because honestly, I would have probably just been too bullheaded, too arrogant to understand it and to accept it if someone was telling me at the very beginning. But after enough stuff hits you, you start to be like, okay, hey, let's look at this. And, I relate it back to track and field, right? When we're in a championship meet, we're in the Big Ten championship, there's 2 days of events in indoors. And it's always, hey, you can't win on day one, but you sure as hell can lose on day one. And it's very similar to that. So it's going, every single person is going to get punched in the face on day one. Someone that was supposed to do really well in their event is going to suck. It's just inevitable. It always happens. And it's not about that, right? Everyone will get punched in the face. Everyone will have someone suck or a couple people. It's about who's going to get completely knocked down. And we're always like, we got to get punched in the face, but that's it. We got to stay in the game for the next day to where we can win it. Stay close enough. It's like when you see this team in March Madness, you see this 15 seed against the 2 seed. And it's like, if you see them stay in it, until that, 10 minutes left in the game, or if they get enough confidence where they're like, yeah, they've had some setbacks, but now they can taste it. They can see the light. They can feel it. That's how I approach it, right? It's like, you got to take the hits, but you got to do what you can, do everything you can do to take them and then keep going forwards. And so, that's the best advice I can really give for, just preparing for that unexpected stuff, because, it's going to happen every day. Honest to God, like there's just going to be stuff you can't control. And so, it's also just understanding that, getting that perspective as a founder, as a CEO to go, hey, there's a lot that's going to happen. You might wake up to 12 different fires that weren't there the night before, and you just got to be chill, be cool, and understand that you can adapt, you can be flexible, and you can handle any situations coming your way as long as you have done everything prior to prepare just that for that, the fact that anything could happen, right? And so I hope that is helpful. I would say, just having that mindfulness, that thoughtfulness as you're going 1,000,000 miles per hour, just stepping back and saying, what could happen? And yes, it could happen. You might say it couldn't, but I'm talking, it could be the craziest shit that you could ever dream up or imagine, but that's okay. Expect it, right? Put it out there so that you're ready. Like everything that could go wrong, put it out there just so that right? Even if it's a 1% chance that it could happen, just have it. Have it there and be ready so that when it does happen, you're like, oh, okay, it's fine. A little minor, but we'll take it. And we were ready for this. We're ready. So, it's having that sense of proactiveness rather than reactiveness. And I think that's just, again, it's as you get these experiences, as you, have injuries in sport, you start to be more proactive. You start to do your stretching after. You start to do your, dynamic warm up and your mobility before, your stretching after, your recovery. You start taking that into account a lot more, because now you know what can happen. And so that's where the experiences are key. But again, it just comes back to, like anything that I've learned in this business, how quickly can you learn from that mistake or that event and then make it so it never happens again. And so, let's use the example of an employee making an absolute massive mistake. Maybe your employee makes a mistake that costs you $100,000. You know, we had one that cost us probably $50,000. Okay. And so when that employee costs you $50,000, are you going to fire them? Or are you going to assess the situation, pull them in and say, hey, what happened here? And they're going to be like, oh, well, if they're a good employee, they're going to be apologetic. They're going to be like, oh my God, like, I'm so sorry. I can't believe this. Like, and you're going to say, hey, what can we learn from this? You know, what happened? Are you going to let it happen again? And odds are, if they're a good employee, absolutely, they're never going to let that happen again. But you have to make them understand the situation and how it happened and learn so that they don't have it. And that is way, way cheaper than just firing them on the spot and saying, are you freaking kidding me? Get the hell out. Make them learn, because if you bring someone new in, guess what happens? They're going to go through the same learning curve, the same mistakes. Like, that's what I like about being a 24-year-old, you know, and being in charge of this many people, is that I make an ungodly amount of mistakes every freaking day, every week. And so that I can understand that, hey, when they're making mistakes, they're just learning just like we are. You know, everyone's going to make mistakes. It's not just business. It's not just fitness. It's just life, right? But it's all about the perspective of learning, and learning fast, because all you're doing is filling this mind with more tools and more ammunition to handle situations in the future. And so when you ask me, how do you prepare for the unexpected? You don't necessarily prepare for it, but as you learn and as you grow, you are preparing for it in a way, right? And so, you know, again, you can do the scenario analysis, and I would absolutely encourage you to do that. Don't necessarily let it hold you back. Don't let it, you know, hold you back from making the decisions, from going for it, from being aggressive, but just to understand everything, to look at the entire picture. That's what's most important, and that's what's going to protect you, because shit's going to happen. It's going to hit you, you know. You just can't control a lot of things. I can't control a lot of things, and it kills me. But you got to learn to get used to it. You got to learn that that's just what happens. So, you know, I hope that helps a lot on, you know, just how to look at it, how to assess the situation, how to prepare, how to help other people prepare. You know, there's just so many things that are unknowns that, you know, we're going through this life, we're going through these experiences. And, you know, it's just a matter of, you know, how bad do you want it? How bad do you want to learn? And, you know, never stop. Never, never stop. So that's all I got for you. You know, that's my 2 cents on that. If you think someone's going to like it, share that crap, you know, tell them. I'm going to share it. I'm going to share this one all over TikTok, all over YouTube. Really, those are the only two that I'm going to do it on. But yeah, if you like that, please, please, please share it. Dog, grandma, grandpa, uncle, aunt, friend, priest, whatever you want. Just please. I'd appreciate it so much. So send in your questions. As always, DM me, whatever you need. Ask me any questions. Always happy to help. But yeah, that's all I got for you. Have a freaking great day. Go win, go dominate, and we'll see you next time.